It's not on. Testing, test. There we go.
Chaverim, Shabbat Shalom. It was
Shabbat Shalom.
nice to be home for Shabbat, to be here at Shir Hadash. For those that are holding a Siddur, I invite you to open your Siddurim on page 129. There is this beautiful idea, this beautiful concept, that Shabbat is a loving gift to us. It is not a common thing to think of a day of the week as a gift. To wake up in the morning and to say, oh, this is such a gift. This day is such a gift to me. But the idea behind that is to recognize that time belongs to us, that we have the opportunity, the possibility to engage, to work, to connect with the world of time and to connect with the things that represent the Avodah Shebalev, the work of our hearts, the things that we really want to connect with. Shabbat is an invitation to recognize all those things, to recognize that we have the space to love, to connect, to stop, to pause. We're on page, once again, 129, for the verse from the Song of the Songs. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine, ani ledodi, bedodi li. Dodi li, bani lo, aroe, basho shanim. Dodi li, v'yisod olam, min hamidbar, v'yisod olam, min hamidbar. Dodi li, bani lo, aroe, ולבונם. תודי לי בנינו הרועם בשושנים. דודי לי בתינים, אחותי כלה ביבבתיני, אחותי כלה. תודי לי ואני לא הרועם בשושנים. Let's respond to them together in song on page 120. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu
on page 130, as we walk toward welcoming the Shabbat bride, Lechu Niranena. Shir Hadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Yom Le'yom, Yeshuato, Sapru Agorim, Kevodo, Bechol Ha'amim, Nifleotav, Yalai, 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 We're on page 132 in the bottom. Or saru al tzadik ulishtei lehev simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, b'odu lesecher kodsho. Page 133. Mizmor Shir Adonai Shir Hadash, ki niflahot asa. We sing a new song to Shabbat for the wonders that we recognize in our lives, in our world. And as we turn our theory into page 134, for Psalm 95. We think of Shabbat as a majestic place, as a sacred space. And each one of these psalms that we recite in Shabbat is like a step in a stairway that leads us, that helps us enter this beautiful room of rest, of connection with the soul. Page 134, Samru Ladonai. Samru Ladonai, Bechinor, Bechinor, Bekor. הביאו לפני המלך אדוני, ירם וימום לו, דבר ויושבע, נערות עמך We're on page 136 for Psalm 29. Mismor LeDavid, Havu LaDonai v'nehelim. Mismor LeDavid, Havu LaDonai kavod va'oz. Havu LaDonai kavod va'oz. Havu LaDonai kavod shemo. Havu LaDonai kavod va'oz. Havu LaDonai kavod shemo. Rai rai, yai rai 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 rai, yai rai rai, yai rai rai, yai rai 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 rai, yai rai rai. Adonaios, לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. אדוניוס לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. איי ריי ריי, יאללה ריי 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 ריי, יאי ריי ריי, איי ריי ריי ריי, יאללה ריי 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 ריי, יאי ריי ריי. אדוניוס לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. אדוניוס לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. We're on page 138, at the center of Kabbalat Shabbat. Sing Lechadodi, we we think of Shabbat as a bride, as a majestic and beautiful presence. And one of the things that we think about through the verses of Lecha Dodi is that sometimes it's easier to think of majestic presences in personified versions. When we think of think about it for a moment. Like, when you think of magic, sometimes we go to some place and that is beautiful, but when we think of a majestic presence, it's always a character, sometimes an imaginary character, and sometimes a character in our lives. But Shabbat has that power, or we want for Shabbat to have that power of stopping it all, of making us turn off our phone notifications. Is there anything that makes you set your phone aside? Think about that for a moment. Is there anything, any presence that make you set everything aside and focus on something? Shabbat is that. Shabbat is like the opportunity to make the decision that we want to have majestic presences in our lives, that we want to be able to focus, to be in control of how we at least dedicate our time. We cannot control time, but we can dedicate the way in which we want to dedicate that time. And that's why we run toward Shabbat, to welcome Him, this presence that has the power to turn off your notifications. We are on page 138. Lecha Dodi לקראת קהלה בני שבת נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת לשם ולתפארת בלי תהילה לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה
לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף
מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת
נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה
מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה רב לך שבט בעמק האבחה והוא יחמול והוא יחמול עלייכם לה לך דודי
לקראת קהלה בני שבת נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה
Hitari me'afaf harkumi lishi bigday tifotei kami al yad ben yishai ben halachmi kava el nafshi kava el nafshi
גאלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת נקבלה
בני שבת נקבלה
התעוררי.
כבוד אדוני
עלייך נגלה, לך דורי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת,
נקבלה פני שבת, נקבלה.
לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תמי. בך יחסו עניי עמי, בנים נהתה איללתי לי לי לי. איי איי לי לי לך דודי, איי לי לי איי לי 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 לקראת כלה, איי לי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. איי 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 לי 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 לך דודי, איי לי 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 איי לי 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 לקראת כלה, איי לי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה.
וחיולים שיסה שוסייך, ורחקו כל נבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן על כלה.
איי לי לי לי, איי לי 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 לך דודי, איי לי 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 איי לי 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 לקראת כלה, איי לי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. ביולים שיסה שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יאסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן על כלה. איי לי לי לי, איי לי 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 לך דודי, איי לי 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 איי לי לי לי.
פני שבת
נקבלה.
פני שבת נקבלה.
אוי ושלום עטרת בלם, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולם, בואי חלה שעת המלכה. איי לי לי לי, איי לי 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 לך דודי, איי לי לי לי
יא לה 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 לקראת כלה.
איי לי לי לי, איי לי 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. איי לי איי איי, איי לי 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 לך דודי, איי לי 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 לקראת כלה. שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. We'll now take a moment to acknowledge each other's presence after we have welcomed Shabbat. We will welcome each other. We're going to say Shabbat Shalom to each other. If you recognize a face that you don't know, please make sure of saying Shabbat Shalom, of saying Good Shabbos. Shir Shabbat. We're on page 140. 140. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולשמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולשמר לשמך עליון. תדעי להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות. לאסוף ולנבל. In the middle of page 140, צדיקת אמר יפרח, חסדת אמר יפרח, כהרס בלבנון ישגה. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינום בסבד, ישנים ברעננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולה תבוא. page 144, חצי קדיש.
יתקרל ויתקדש שם רבה, ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון וחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יש מנהל מבורך לעולם ולעלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשה ברכו. לילה מן קורחתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, יאמירם לעלמה, ואמרו אמן.
We are turning now our study to page 146 for Baruch. Please rise as we turn to Jerusalem, our eternal capital. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. You may be seated. On page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. In the middle in Hebrew, ומבדיל יום ומהביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי בקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך שמו, אמרי ורבי. אני ידעתי, אהבת עולם בית ישראל. in the middle of page 150, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם בלילה, באהבתך אל תשים ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך שמו, אוהב עמו ישראל. On page 152, Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאור על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אמת, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. On page 156, אמת באמונה כוס, ובקיים עלינו כי אדוני אלוהינו, ואין זולתו ואנחנו ישראל, עמו. When your children witness your presence, they praise your name in gratitude. And they accepted your sovereignty. Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Who is like you, O God, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. We're on page 158. Mi chamocha לפני משה ומרים, זה לי, אנו בעמו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. דידם בדלי, לי, 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 יאי, לי, 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 יאי, לי, ונאמר כיפדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, as it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch ata Adonai Gaal Israel. We're on page 160 for for the blessing of protection, of shelter, of peace, of internal peace that we seek. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, בעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. And in the middle of page 160. ושמור שתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. בשמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם ואיני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ואת Shabbat Bahi Nafash. We now turn our Siddurim to page 164 for Tfilat Amidah. We'll continue the reading of Tfilat Amidah in silence. You can follow along the millennial words of our tradition. Alternatively, take a moment to think about your Tfilah Shebalev, the prayer of your heart, the work and the words that you need to say. Adonai We're at the bottom of page 180. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. And for the last year and a half of war, we made it our custom to read the words of the blessing for Shalom out loud in Hebrew and together. So please join us. Ose Shalom b'imromav, u'yaseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'al kol yoshbei tevel b'imru. Amen. At this point of our service, we'll take a moment to acknowledge those that are dealing with illness. We think of those dealing with illness in their bodies. We think of those dealing with illness in their souls. We think of those struggling and dealing with addictions. And we think of those carrying grief. If there is a name that you'd like to share in this Erev Shabbat, we invite you to do that as we go around our praying circle.
Scott Van Gundy, Dave Stahl, Batja Peters, Sandra Goldberger, Mira Engel, Victoria Spiller, Berdine Coven, Sandy Corman, Larry McGuan, David Spodek, Lori Shaken, Debbie Pink, Rich Zabridger, Jim Rosenfeld, Ruth Murad, Nellie Murad, Liz Herman, Patty Linder Dodd, Judy Sutton, Ellen Kashik, Bernice Paris, Don Barnett, Alex Chapman, Shelley Goodman Taub, Arlene German, Nava Storr, Raz Zins.
Say the millennial words that Moshe said for his sister in an act of spontaneous and desperate prayer. Elna refanala. Elna refanala. Chasek eni rape elna refanala elna refanala elna refanala elna refanala רפואה שלמה והחלמה מהירה, a complete recovery of body and spirit, and soon to experience well-being to all those that are in need of it. And we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. take some time to get set here. Just have no energy to keep dealing with this. We are better off. We actually don't really need a microphone, right? But for the sake of those that are connecting with us online and that we want to for sure include, and we want for them to feel included, and also for the sake of Kristen's and Amitai's videos. So we need to, Joshua, is you too with the videos? You too, okay. So Kristen, Joshua, and Amitai's videos. We don't need to use a microphone. ויגש אליו יהודה. Then Judah, the Torah translates, went up to him. This week's Parsha, Vayigash, opens with one of the most dramatic moments in the entire Torah. Judah approaches Joseph, though he doesn't yet know. It's like a telenovela, okay? If you were into telenovelas when you were growing up, well, if you were growing up in Argentina and there was nothing else to watch, then you were into telenovelas when you were growing up, and they were all from Mexico. Anyway, so, what? There you go. So this is a moment of, there's about to be a revelation. This is dramatic. I don't want to actually deal with the drama, but if you don't know it, you need to know. This is one of the most dramatic moments in the entire Torah. Joseph, the lost brother, is a kind of a prince in Egypt. Now the siblings are coming. I just want you to be aware. We're so few. So if you have any side conversation, I actually hear what you are saying, and I'm listening to you. So you need to be very mindful of that. Your choice. I will need to stop. I just can't keep going. So this is it. It's one of the most dramatic moments in the entire Torah. The siblings don't know that Joseph is now a prince. Joseph is hiding. And now Joseph is accusing them of a crime they didn't commit. And Judah approaches Joseph and pleads for the release of Benjamin. But what stands out of this moment isn't just that Judah, in an heroic act, steps forward. It's how he steps forward. His approach doesn't just change the outcome, it reflects a personal transformation that Judah himself has experienced. The Hebrew word for Vayigash means approach, and he approached. But it isn't just about moving closer, of a physical act. Judah's approach represents a shift in character. Earlier in the story of these siblings, Judah failed to stand up for Joseph. Now, he steps up for Benjamin. It's a transformation not just of a position, but of methodology. The word methodology is an important one, a very important one, because Vayigash, the word gisha in Hebrew, is literally methodology. Judah doesn't hesitate to lead with vulnerability, responsibility, and connection. And that change in the approach, the ability to reframe, adapt, to grow, is what ultimately opens the door for the reconciliation of these siblings. The power of the approach of Vayigash is always present as a possibility, But too often, it is lost in the default of patterns of our mindsets or the illusions we create in order to control our personal narratives. We think we have no options. We have very often a single approach for every single situation in our lives. A striking example of the power of the approach appears in the Hanukkah, in the liturgy of Hanukkah that we just celebrated a week ago. And it's represented in one single word. In the blessing we recite after meals in Birkat HaMazon, and in the addition, in the section of Odaya, in the Amidah of gratitude, in the central prayer of our service, appears this word. There is a sequence of words acknowledging miracles. Ala Nisim, Be'ala Purkan. Have you sung them? Ala Nisim, Be'ala Purkan, Be'ala Shuvot, Be'ala Oche Asita. You said the word. Now, you said the word, Cantor. The word that I needed was milchamot. It's one word. You will see something very interesting. Sephardic Jews use the word be'ala niflaot that you have made for our parents. And Ashkenazi Jews say niflaot means wonders. Wonders, I'm going to hold back with the Ashkenazim. I'm going to tell you. And the Ashkenazim say milchamot, and for the wars that you made for our forefathers. Now, if you try to distinguish the word wonders, it's a beyond grasp divine realm, or in other words, a beyond our reach and above our heads approach. These wonders that were made for us. Now, on the other hand, the word milchamot is a painful, tangible, down-to-earth, human responsibility and participation-based approach. However, while focusing on this second approach, one could and should ask, why do we talk about the milchamot? Why do we put the emphasis on the milchamot, on the wars, on the battles, if we could actually say on the nitzchonot, on the winnings, on our victories? The entire story of Hanukkah is that we were victorious. And maybe, and now that Hanukkah has passed, I'm willing to tell you this, maybe it's because we actually didn't win the war. We didn't win the war. We won a battle. We reclaimed the temple, but the broader struggle, the ideological and the cultural one, that tension never fully ended. Let's pause and think for a second about this. Do you like sports? Are you a fan of any sports team? Okay, cool. Do you send your children to school? Go to a secular school? To learn math and chemistry and all those things. Do you think that getting a college education is a good idea? So the Greeks won. That's what the Greeks wanted. The cultural war was a total takeover by the Greeks. We all are Hellenized in our approach to life. Now, if we put the entire thing on these specific things, then we are a lost cause. On the other hand, if we say that the war was actually about identity, and these things are not necessarily descriptive of our identities, but they are important things that we want to have as part of our culture identities, then there's a chance for us to reclaim and say, well, we actually won a battle. And yes, we adopted these things from Greek culture. Now, the problem with identity is that it isn't something that you can win on one decisive moment, even in a glorious one. It's not a box you check off and move on. It's ongoing. And that seems to be something that our rabbis knew when planting the word milchamot. In those days, by Amim Am, and maybe more importantly, and something that we could extremely benefit from internalizing, Basman Aseh, in our days, in these days. Professor James Cars explains this beautifully when he describes two kinds of games, finite and infinite games. Finite games, like basketball, have fixed rules, set players, and clear winners and losers. Infinite games, like life, wisdom, and identity, have changing rules, unknown players, and no end point. The goal isn't to win. The goal, my friends, is to keep playing, to keep learning, and to keep growing. And yet, so often, we approach infinite games with a finite mindset. We act as if careers, relationships, and even health are things we can win. But treating infinite games like finite ones creates burnout. It sets us up for frustration because we are trying to finish something that's not meant to end. Simon Sinek points out that when we approach infinite games with a finite mindset, we see trust, cooperation, and innovation decline. Over time, we run out of the will or the resources to keep going. So what's the alternative to a finite approach? What does it take to shift it? It takes having the courage to trade probability by possibility. It takes the breadth of seeing in our lives as journeys and not as checklists. It means accepting that there are no winners in marriage, parenting, careers, or democracy. Because to keep playing is the goal and not winning them. These are all infinite games. This concept is especially relevant when we reflect on transitions of power here in the US. Whether we are happy or disappointed by the election's result, the question is, what happens the next day? Do we declare game over? That mentality, the game over mindset, is, in my opinion, what fueled the January 6th insurrection. People believed that there was nothing left to lose. But democracy, like identity, is an infinite game. It requires us to keep showing up, to keep struggling, and by means of doing that, to keep growing. That's why the Hanukkah liturgy emphasizes milchamot, battles, and not victories. It reminds us that some struggles, such as the one of building a particular identity in a diverse world, aren't meant to end. On the contrary, they are meant to be an ongoing tension that shapes us. To live with those milchamot tensions is what gives us the elasticity to rise to the level of our circumstances, to find, or at least to aim to find, or at least to aim for the right approach, Basman Aseh, in this time, in our lives. And of course, not all battles are meant to be in perpetuity. There are wars, like the one in Gaza today, that must end with a ceasefire and the release of all hostages, God willing. But what also needs to end is the conception, the misconception that is spoken by Israeli politicians of the absolute victory. True for this war and for many other conflicts, there is a deeply flawed approach that argues that ongoing struggles can be defeated on one battle. Win and be done. That approach most often undermines the root cause of the conflicts that we are dealing with. And it aims to end by winning, but ultimately leads to burnout, loss, and corruption. We have 454 days of war since October 7th that tragically prove that. An alternative could be to stop thinking about the war as a soccer game, in which we keep a scoreboard and instead approach it as a time of expressing our social aspirations, a time to focus on building social trust, considering, for example, that in Israel, the numbers of government and even army approval, which is a very unusual thing. Usually the army has a very high level of approval in Israel, and the chief of the army particularly, not the case right now, is in a historical low of 48%, something like that. It's very, very low. Are in a historical, the two of them, government approval and army approval and trust are in a very, 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 very low rate. As it turns out, playing to win really doesn't help when what we actually need to be doing is to play to build. Now back to the sphere of our personal lives. If we manage to internalize that there might be places in which we have the power of the approach, meaning the power of transforming situations and our life experiences, being able to find the right allocation, the fine-tuning place for our actions, and by means of doing that, find out what the circumstances that we are dealing with really require. Then we will stop burning out, and instead, we will be very likely building strength. Judah's story, in this Torah portion, Parashat Vayigash, shows us this very simple but important concept. He doesn't give up. True on Benjamin, but first and foremost, he doesn't give up on his own capacity to grow and to rise to a higher level of decency. His previous experiences and bitterness now become steps on a path that led to this moment, not one of culmination, as decency is an infinite game, but one of profound connection and healing. And so, I want to wish to all of us, for this Shabbat of Parashat Vayigash, the Shabbat of the power of the approach, to help us identify the places we have defined as game over in our lives. May this Shabbat give us the courage to examine our scars and burnout, and remind us that we can grow, that we can continue playing, and that we too have the ability to heal. Because as Judah and anyone else, we have the power of the approach, and that power can change it all. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We'll continue our service on page 586 with Aleinu Leshabeach. We'll invite all those that are under the age of Bar Mitzvah or in the year around their Bar Mitzvah to open the ark. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות,
ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו לעמוד העולם, ואנחנו קוראים
ומשתחווים ומודים
לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
On page 590, the middle.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
As we close the ark, you may be seated.
It's our custom at this time to remember those who have died in this season and in seasons past, and so we share the names of those who have yortzites this Shabbat. Nida Karnoff-Stein, Ben Katzman, Chuck Rubenstein, Harry Grossman, Howard May, Irving Victor, Jacob Pifk, James Petrie, Jean K. May, Johnny Raffelli, Cambiz Yashua Simontov, Murray Kern, Pat Price, Richard Klein, Sidney Baker, Yona Talmor. And if you are in the first 7 days of morning Shiva, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. If you are in the first 30 days of morning Shloshim, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. If you are in the first year, cycle the first year of mourning, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. And Carol Rosenberg. If you have a yortzeit this week, an anniversary of someone's passing, please rise and share with us who you are remembering.
Patya Batsara.
The congregation offers our condolences to Rich Pickard on the death of his wife and our member, Carol Pickard.
On page 598 for Kaddish Avelim, Mourners Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שם רבה, ועל מה דיברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון ולמכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שם רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שם קודשה וליכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תוש בחתה ונחמתה, ואמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. May the memories of your dear ones and those that you are remembering as well be a blessing or be a source for you to bring blessing into your life and into the world. Yeh Zichram Baruch, and your deeds may be blessed as well. You may be seated.
going to share some brief announcements. So on Saturday, January 4th, which is tomorrow, we have Shabbat Cafe at 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. is Torah study. At 10:30, we'll have our usual Shabbat service alongside a special youth Shabbat for kindergarten through 6th grade families with our new musician in residence, Lior Ben-Hur. For Tat Shabbat story time at 11:30 a.m. And following services, everyone is invited to the Shabbos table lunch around 12:15 p.m. You can register online, and all information can be found, of course, on our calendar. Beginning on Tuesday, January 7th at 6:30 p.m., register to join Rabbi Nico as he teaches fair play and lost treasures, navigating everyday ethics found in the Bava Metzia. Again, more information is online. On Thursday, January 9th.
Let me know.
What?
Let me know.
Let you know, okay. On Thursday, January 9th at 11:30 a.m., we'll have our first Nashim, Remarkable Jewish Women Begins. We will be exploring the Midrash with the book Dershuni when she gets to tell the story. Again, more information is online, and please register. Also at 4:45 p.m., if you know anyone who is looking for in regard to our preschool, we have a transitional kinder info night. These are families with 3 to 4-year-olds who are welcome to come and learn more about our transitional kindergarten program. And on Sunday, January 12th at 10 a.m., we will have a preschooler party and preschool open house. We're inviting the whole neighborhood, especially families with kids under 6, to our preschooler party with a bounce house, face painting, cotton candy, and a petting zoo. Stop by and enjoy the activities and tour our newly renovated classrooms and play yard. And at 12 p.m., we have Shir Hadash Mahjong. Players of all skill levels are welcome. Please find more information and register online. And again, there's lots and lots of activities going on, so please check out our website and our calendar.
Phenomenal.
I'm done.
We'll now turn our series to page 122 in order to do Kiddush al Yom HaShabbat, the Kiddush for Shabbat. We'll invite you to please rise, and if you feel comfortable doing so at this point, to start connecting with your family, your chosen family, to make sure that nobody stands alone. וירא ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ בכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי וחברותיי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו. באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרונו למעשה בראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי באנו בחרת, אותנו קידשת, עם כל העמים. בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. As we are sharing the blessing for joy, we also take a moment to rejoice in our creations, to rejoice in the beauty that we are bringing into this world. We think of the loving connections that we are creating with our children, with our friends. We think of our capacity to be creators of love, to bring love into this world. We tell to our children, may God inspire you to be like the parents, like the loving parents of the house of Israel. ישמחם אלוהים כאפרים וכמנשה, ישמחם אלוהים כשרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה. We say to all of them, to all of you, יברככם אדוני וישמרכם. May God bless you and protect you. ירא אדוני פניו אליכם ויחונקם. יישא אדוני פניו אליכם וישם לכם שלום. May you find within you God's presence always, and may you have the strength to learn, to grow, to heal, to change perspectives, and to look at the world with renewed eyes when the world requires very often new eyes, and we fail to look at it with those eyes. May you have those eyes. May you bring that grasp, that approach to this world that is in such a desperate need of love and hope. And may God give us the strength and the peace to be builders of a better world. Adonai os le'amav iten. May God give us the strength to us and to all its peoples, and may God give us the blessing of shalom. Adonai yevarech et amo et amav bashalom. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, umevorach everybody.
Rava Yisrael Amka Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amka Tasim Leolam.
Ki atahu melech Adonai echol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adom lechol hashalom. Shalom al Yisrael amcha
Tasim Leolam. Shalom
al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. שבת בשבת.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.